There are things that you don't know until you try. Like as you start caring about different things, you don't care about how to be more successful, but what you can do to society, what you can do to the world. And that comes after you stop eating products that cause harm and cause struggle and like the energy change. It's hard to explain it. I don't know if there is real science behind it, but I know I can only speak from my experience, and that's what moved me eventually to become plant-based.
As a vegan, do you ever feel like you're living in a parallel universe, aware of things that many others don't even seem to notice, let alone acknowledge? I'm Chrissy Benson, host of the Vegan Posse podcast. We talk with vegans from around the globe who, like you, are living lives of integrity and compassion with an eye toward justice. Through their personal stories, you'll come to see that you're not an outlier. In fact, you're part of an entire posse of individuals who aren't just keeping the peace, they're creating it through their food choices and beyond. You won't be saddling up, but you're in for the ride of your life. Welcome to the Vegan Posse. Hey Posse, I'm Chrissy Benson, host of the Vegan Posse, and please meet this week's co-host, Reno. I love birthdays, and this episode will be airing just a couple of days before my 55th birthday. Double nickels, double the fun. It's been quite a year for me with some highs, like speaking at Vegan Summerfest, and some lows, like the theft of 1.28 Bitcoin from my Coinbase account in August of 2024. As for the Bitcoin heist, U.S. Secret Service agent Damian Belcars is currently investigating the incident. And if you haven't yet, you can get the inside scoop on this real-life Bitcoin mystery in Vegan Posse episode number 93. But meanwhile, all of this personal drama pales in comparison to what's happening to farmed animals all over the world at this very moment. In this week's episode, we talked to plant-based nutrition educator, chef, and content creator Natalie Golba. Originally from the Soviet Union, Natalie realized that the best way for her to help suffering animals was to help humans learn to cook plant-based and to skyrocket their own health, beauty, athletic performance, and longevity by becoming their own healthiest chef. A former fashion model, Natalie herself is one of those many vegans I've met who embody true beauty inside and out. So enjoy this conversation with Natalie Golba. Natalie, welcome to the Vegan Posse. Are you ready for the ride of your life?
Yes.
I love when people have no hesitation. You just were ready to go. So you're a plant-based chef and nutrition educator, and you do all kinds of cool work with elite athletes, celebrities, and executives. And I want to hear all about how you started and built your business. But here on the Vegan Posse, we really like to give a sense of our guests as people rather than just as experts or sources of information. So if you're okay with it, why don't we start at the very beginning? I'd love to hear about where you're from and if you ever thought much about the animals in our food system when you were growing up.
Yeah. Well, I was born in Russia. Russia is the country where 9 months out of 12, you have very cold weather. And I was born in Soviet Union. So at that time, we didn't even have export of foods from other regions. So pretty much we had, when it comes to vegetables, we would have vegetables that come, that grow during summer. And then we either find a way to store it or ferment it or freeze it or things like that. And the majority of our diet was still like obviously animal based. That's just what country is about. But I remember my first memory of us going with my cousin going fishing with their parents, and I was 6, and I never caught anything, but I saw them caught a fish, and I remember just the compassion I felt. I felt that it's wrong, and I begged them so badly so they let it go. But I remember the feeling of that it was wrong, and it stuck with me. So when you're a child, you don't think of consequences of the things that you eat and what it is. It's just a dish, you know. But the more growing up, like I think at the age of 18, I first heard about vegetarians. I didn't even know vegans exist, but I really liked that idea. And later on, I tried it when I was probably first 23, and I really liked how I felt.
Were
Uh,
you still in Russia at that time?
yeah, yeah, I was still
Yeah.
in Russia. I just found a mentor who was vegetarian, a yogi, and yeah, he taught me how to do it, and I really liked. However, it was very hard socially, but it's made me feel like it. I liked how I felt, not just physically but mentally. There are a lot of things that
Mm.
shifted. There are things that you don't know until you try. Like as you start caring about different things, you don't care about how to be more successful, but what you can do to society, what you can do to the world, and that comes after you stop eating products that cause harm and cause struggle and like the energy change. I It's hard to explain it. I don't know if there is real science behind it, but I know I can only speak from my experience, and that's what moved me eventually to become plant-based.
Very interesting. Well, I'm curious about this mentor that you found. How did you
Yeah.
find a mentor?
So, I mean, it was just a yoga, not a yoga teacher in what it is in America, but it was a real yogi. Like he moved to India when he was 18. He had his initiation there. He lived there for, he left his whatever business. He got like Indian name, and he was like a like spiritual yoga teacher.
Mm.
I remember the first thing he taught me. He
How
asked
did
me.
how did you connect with him in the first place? Were you taking yoga classes?
No, I was. I just. I think it was. What was it? It was a taxi. Like I was for in the taxi, and he was working there.
You're
But I
kidding.
saw
He was
all.
your taxi driver or you were his taxi driver?
I no no. He was my taxi driver. But I saw all the Indian clothes and everything, and I just curious. And he said, "I'm also teaching classes." And then at the very first class, I remember what he told me. He asked like, "Who's the closest person to you?" And I said, "My mom." And he said, "No." And he said, "It's me." And I was like, "Oh my God, like, does he want something from me? Does he want me?" He said, "No, because in this very moment, there is just you and me in this room. In any room you ever enter, the people who are there are your closest people, and you should always treat them like that. Every moment is so special." And I remember it was a very new concept to me, but it stick with me.
Mm.
Seed was planted to be always present, appreciative, and like really listening to those around you, really being there for them. With any
Hmm.
room you enter, everyone who is there, they're there for a reason, and they're your closest people.
That's so profound. That's hitting me really strongly in this moment. I mean, it makes so much sense, and yet we
Well,
rarely
Chris,
think about it in that
who is
way.
your closest person now?
You are, Natalie. You are. See, did I get the answer right? So, how long did you work with him?
Well,
Do you
he
still know him?
still, yeah, we're still in touch. I mean, maybe now we just talk once a year or something, but since I was 18 or 19, I don't remember exact year I met him, but it's like lifetime.
So, he was a vegetarian. Was he a vegan?
No, I mean he's in India. There's no like most of them are vegetarian. Like, I explained him once I became vegan, and he was very inspired. He got very inspired. I didn't even know vegans exist. Like for me,
Huh.
for that time, they're vegetarian. I didn't even know of the concept until I moved here and met the first friend who was vegan. And then I even looked at that perspective. It takes time, and also like I think in this age everyone knows of vegan, but I'm 38 now, so it's a long way from the time 20 years ago I was 18 when I
Mhm.
briefly heard of vegetarians, and I was growing up in the family of doctors. So what they learned is like that you need animal protein to be healthy. Like we were
Mm.
eating really healthy food from farmers market, vegetables, like not growing in their industrial, but more like the small farmers, supporting them and supporting our health. So my parents were very knowledgeable in this, but when it comes to animals like that, there was not even an option to eat vegetables like back then.
Hmm.
Right now, we can get the produce from all over the world. Like pretty much, there's before everyone was living by seasons, so it's like to go to Antarctica or I don't know until that you have to,
Right. Right.
it's very isolated if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So you became vegetarian. Did it happen all at once? And was it difficult to make
Yeah, when
that
you're
transition?
young, it's easy. Like you're so revolutionary. You do everything all at once. Yeah.
And so how long did that phase last? Did that period
Well,
of
because it
time
was,
last?
I was first vegetarian. Then I got back to eating some fish. So because I thought there was some omega whatever, and then when I really became wanted to become plant based, it was 2015 when I already met in real life two people who were vegan, and they gave me support and the advices I needed to
And this
start.
was still in Russia, or were you in the US at that point?
States. Yeah, I moved to the
Okay.
States in 2013, and I've met two ladies who were vegan, like one by one. So I asked advice from one and another, and I saw that they were healthy and they looked great.
Hmm.
However, I just at that time, again, with my perspective, it wasn't healthy, but I just wanted to do it for the animals. I just thought, like, even if I live 5 years less or 7 years less, but no one is going to die because of me, I'm going to do it. And I just went for it. So I went for it after Earthlings. I knew of the movie. I knew, I told myself if I'm brave enough to go to the store and buy the produce that still have animals in them, then I have to watch it till the end and then I make a decision. Because so many people is like, oh, I can't watch it. I don't like, yeah, I don't want to do it. But I think a lot of people will move and change once they really watch it, not turn around. Not I don't want to look there.
Yeah.
You have to look there. So, and at the time, like after I watched it, it took me a few days because I couldn't watch. I would just stop and cry for hours, and then I try again, and then I just like wasn't enough. Like
Were you by yourself when you were watching it, or
yeah.
did you have a friend or somebody with you?
No, no. I wanted to do everything on myself. I isolated myself for like 2 months to do the transition, to be honest. Like I didn't even hang out with people. I didn't have enough people who didn't eat plant-based and it would still affect me. I
Yeah.
just needed to go through the
Were you
journey.
in California, or what part of the
Yes,
United
in
States were you in?
California. Yeah, my transition was I first tried it in Miami. So in 2015 in November, I moved to California, and that was like just a few months that I just isolated myself from everything and did what I needed to go vegan.
Wow, and it's so interesting because I have talked to other people who had the same conception in mind. Like they thought that it was less healthy and they might be sacrificing their own health or perhaps some lifespan by going vegan, but they felt that it was worth doing for the animals. and
Yeah,
and it's so funny to me how in fact the opposite is true. In fact, not only is it possible to be healthy eating vegan, it's almost impossible to be fully healthy if you're not vegan,
yeah,
if you're consuming those products. So
I agree.
it's very interesting. And I find it very touching, just the purity of spirit that, just compels people to make this choice, even though they think that they may be sacrificing something on their end. So how did you feel when you did it, and how hard was it going from vegetarian or pescatarian to fully vegan?
It was hard. There was not enough produce. There's not enough information. I ate a lot of processed food that was vegan, and I gained weight. I was already in the process of gaining weight, just moving to United States. Like there's a lot of things that happened to my body that I didn't want to accept, and I was just wanted to get a body always had. So I knew that there are ladies, gorgeous ladies, like who are in their 50s and they look sick. And I wanted to be one of them when I am. So I knew that in that year it means, and I was modeling. So the way I looked was working in my favor or not, or opposite. And of course, the self-esteem went down. I just knew I'm gonna find the way, whatever it will take me. And to be honest with you, the story is crazy because it took me 3 years. 3 years of struggles and fails, and I had the nutritionist who didn't give me right advice. I did over exercise. I worked out 3 times a day at the time because I wanted to lose that weight so badly. I haven't I didn't know what's right because I tried so many things, and I would lose 10 pounds and I gained 15, and then I gained. So right away, I didn't have good results, but I knew I have to find them. I have to find them. And again, some people just accept whatever your body changed, but I knew that there is a way, the healthy way to get when you're 18, and if you can maintain your weight throughout your life, like that's the way to go. And I knew that there were a lot of plant-based people who look amazing. They look younger than they are, at least 10 years. Like the older you get, it's 20 years and more. Their body looked like they're 18. But I guess my microbiome wasn't ready. A lot of food are different in this country. They grow differently. I didn't know what is organic. Like you just go to the store and everything in my country was organic. And here it took me years to learn those things, like that
Mm.
some things just have less nutrients, and because of that you end up eating more. So all of that took me years of failures,
Yeah.
that it used to be, the fat is bad, and then like the carb like is bad, like all those things that just don't make sense. Like I think the main outtake and the main um reason why it went down is my acceptance, because I was so judgmental to myself and I built fear around food. Every little thing I would eat, instead of thinking how it coming and bringing me joy and bringing me nurture, I was thinking that it bring me calories and fat. So even if something healthy, I would think, oh my god, I should have put like quarter avocado and a half. Like when you start overthinking, the moment you let it go, everything comes into a place.
Interesting. And so were you making a living as a model at this point, or
Yeah.
was that your profession?
Well, I have a degree in economics and music.
Wow.
When I moved to the States, my economic degree didn't transfer here really well. And music, my English was so little, so I didn't want to sing in Russian restaurants here. That would be my
You're a
culture.
singer? That's the kind of music that you do?
And I play piano too.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Wow. So you're really multifaceted.
Thank you. So, and when I moved, the modeling was on the table. I did modeling my entire life since I was 3. I was always invited. Like living in Russia, not doing it internationally, it was more like a hobby. Even it brought some money, but I never considered it as a part of my career. However, I had enough evidence that I was doing successful modeling in my country, so I was able to transfer, and I had my agencies in Miami and New York, and I was traveling between those two cities for quite a few years before I moved to the States. So my journey is very interesting. So, and that
Yeah.
year, when I moved to California, my attorney didn't fill out the documents right to extend my work permit. So because of that, I had like, we needed to apply another one. So basically I had, and it takes 3 months. So for 3 months, I couldn't legally work, and I didn't want to break the law. But I had my savings that I was saving to buy a car, and I already was vegan. So I found the culinary school that I just invested all my savings. I spent all the money I had, and that changed my life. So the year
Wow. What was the school?
it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
It doesn't exist anymore. Unfortunately, it was grade school at the time. So I got there, and even in the first class, I saw that I have it, what it takes. to be a really good chef because I saw other students and some of them were good, some of them were great, but I was like, I felt very confident of my position there.
What does it take to be an excellent chef?
Are the flavor combination. So I can imagine some things how they would taste when I come up with a new dish, and once I make it, it tastes exactly how I thought it would. So, but I
Interesting.
make food since I'm 3 years old. So first time I started watching my granny at 6, I could make cake from scratch, like the biscuits, the cream, everything myself. Yeah, and I'm very detail oriented.
Uh-huh.
So one new year, our family came. I made my first. We have like this famous Olivier salad. They call it here potato salad, but it doesn't just have potatoes. So it's like a New Year dish. And I remember my grandfather came and tried, and he asked my mom, "It's like, didn't Natasha made it? Like in Russia, they call me Natasha." And she said yes. And I said, like, how do you know? Because I thought he loved the taste. And he's like, well, the pieces were like big, and I felt so much shame that they could not eat. So after that, and I was probably like 6 or 7. So after that, I started cutting everything in the perfect squares, like even at that age. So ever
Yeah,
since,
you're
very,
meticulous.
I'm
Yes.
very particular. Yeah. And I always knew, I didn't know a lot about presentation, but I always knew about the flavors, and I always had
Uh-huh.
this in me to combine and put and come up. And that school taught me how not just to repeat someone's recipe, but how to come up with your own. So every week, by the end of the week, we'll have to come up with a few recipes that you know never existed in the world. So you have to.
Wow, what a challenge.
And that actually built, well, and you combine and come up with things that just don't make sense, like
Mhm.
strawberry cheese, plant-based cheese, like whatever. Some things that, yeah, but sometimes they come up okay, and sometimes they come up like brilliant, and that just encouraged me, like open up the artist in me, like food artist.
Yeah.
So after that, even till nowadays, I come up at least with 2 3 different recipes per week, every week. I just
Wow.
create, and I constantly go and I constantly learn, get inspiration. I see something on the internet and I already see how I can make it 10 times more interesting for myself. I wish I had more time to shoot all of them, but you still can see a lot of my recipes on my page. Like I came up with all of them, so that's kind of how I express
That's
my.
fascinating. I mean, what a change from economics and from music. I mean, I get that there's artistry in all of those areas, but how long was this school? I mean, was it a month or was it a year?
It was
How
few
long did you
months.
go?
It was 4 months, I think. 4.
4 months, full time?
Yeah, 8 hours a day.
And was it a plant-based culinary
Hmm.
school? It
Yep.
was. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So everybody there was vegan
Yeah.
or at least cooking vegan.
But yeah, in the school they
Yeah.
could. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And so I can imagine that that was a really valuable experience because you were kind of comparing yourself and learning among other people who were cooking within the same parameters.
More than that, Chrissy. Also, I was sharing all of that in social media, and I got my first private chef client. Like
Huh.
when I was sharing that for a few months, I get hired for it.
Really?
He became my consistent client, and after that, he introduced me with quite a few clients. I worked with all his family members, and
Wow.
the other like clients got like that. Just started my journey. More than anything, it made me realize what I love to do the best. I didn't think I want to be
Uh-huh.
a chef. I love
That's
cooking. I love
so
helping
interesting.
people. But once I saw that I can bring a value into someone's life, meaning like I saw how girls would lose 20, 30 pounds, their shoulders go back,
Wow.
they become proud, they become dating the people they wanted to date, not just whoever come, like they become more confident. Like that made me happier than anything else. And
Mm.
by no means I want to say I did it, because it takes a lot for a person to change their nutrition perspective. I
Mhm.
have so much admiration for people. Like I was lucky still to have very healthy family. Uh, at the core, we didn't have burgers, we didn't have sugar at the house. Like we just didn't have it. I was allowed to
Mhm.
drink Coca-Cola once a year on my birthday, one glass. At the moment, I hated everything about it. I wanted to be a normal kid, but I don't have a habit of it that I needed to break. So I have a lot of admiration for my clients who take the steps, had completely different background, and were growing up overweight, and then all of a sudden they do this change and they commit to it. But I'm ready and how happy to be that shoulder at that time. I'm happy to provide delicious recipes that you can stick with into life, because everyone could lose weight, but if it's not a joy experience, you're not going to commit and invest your entire life following this lifestyle. I don't like the word diet. I'm unfortunately, we didn't come up with a better word yet.
Right, right, right,
It is a
right.
lifestyle. You just need to invent something that is not calculating, but you just eat on the way, where always nourish your body, where if you can eat
Hmm.
more, you're not gaining weight just because the food is so nutritious, delicious. You just get more nutrients and vitamins and
Right.
yeah.
I have so many questions. So how old were you when you went to this culinary school?
I was 28 years old. 20.
Okay. And at that time, what was your own health like? Was your health excellent and you were the weight that you liked to be and
I
you were feeling
was,
good in your body?
at the time, I was 25, like 25, 30 pounds more than I am now. Yeah.
I mean, you're so thin, so you would still look very thin at that weight, but that's a substantial amount of weight. Yeah, what do you
Compared
attribute
to
that difference to?
depends compared to who. Like ever since I was 16, I'm fighting to be in a good weight. I don't at this moment, but my entire life since 16 to probably 31, if I'm not watching what I eat, if I'm watching what I eat, but I'm still doing wrong things, I don't
Hmm.
have genetics in me to be skinny. Neither my mom
Interesting,
or my
because
dad.
looking at you, people, I'm sure, just assume that you do have those genes because you
Thank
look
you. I wish I
naturally
did.
just lean. Yeah.
No, I worked on it my entire life because I made my priority. I wanted to break the circle. I didn't want to have cardiovascular diseases. I didn't want to be overweight. I wanted to like myself and I wanted to be healthy. I
Hmm.
so another side of me when I was little, I was a ballet. Like I went to ballet school, and I know when you're doing ballet, when you're doing splits, when you're doing like jumps, everything, every extra pound you feel. And there is
Hmm.
nothing like to feel your body's flexible. There's nothing like to feel that your body is light and you want to move more, you want to do more things. You're so inspired. So like those 25, 30 pounds more when I was, maybe it's not that much for American person. Like for me and for my family and for how I felt, I, I felt that someone got and observed my body and that's not me. And I just wanted to
Mm.
take off everything that doesn't belong because
Wow.
I didn't feel light. I didn't
Mm.
feel outgoing. Like even the hikes were harder because I'm
Hmm.
very athletic and I love doing things, but I felt heavy. A lot of like
Hmm.
just doing regular things, much heavier. And I was not happy. Like I had my things that I wanted to achieve in life, certain things in my career, certain things in relationship, certain things like one of my big things was the body that I wanted. And every time I looked at all the other goals, I knew that I have to prioritize the body because none of the other things would bring me, would happen until
Hmm.
I do and fix that first. Like even like with
Hmm.
my career at the time with the modeling, like I can't do a lot of things if I don't feel confident, and the casting if I don't feel
Hmm.
myself. If it just I'm not going to be a good partner. I'm not even going to be a good friend because I will have so many insecurities and things that I'm
Hmm.
constantly thinking, doubting, etc. It's not a healthy way to be. So,
Hmm.
and I knew that I have to figure like I felt that it's because my yeah. So my economic degree originally was computer science. I have a math brain, so I knew that I have to just like resolve this puzzle. I knew that the answer is there and that it's possible. I just couldn't find the right puzzle. Like, and I tried a lot of it, and sooner or later I got the whole picture, and that just inspired me to help others who are going through this journey because I know how hard it is. Over 3 years, over 30 pounds. It's I know it is hard.
That's so interesting because these days, especially in the United States and especially in our politically correct culture, there's a big movement to feel good in your body at any size. So a lot of circles, you might have been guided to, oh, just learn to get comfortable with your body at this, weight that's 25 or 30 pounds above what you are, or learn to just try to enjoy those things that you want to do anyway and not let your weight hold you back from those things. Like what do you make of that approach?
There is some truth into it, and where my truth laid, I was able to lose weight until I started noticing good things of my change, like not saying like, oh my god, how much extra I have and how unattractive I look, but rather it's like, oh, that went a little down on this one. So I start looking at myself in the mirror and notice things I love about myself,
Mm,
and it did change the dynamic of me hating my image,
hmm.
uh, and not being where I want to be. Like, just for a multiple years, it was just me looking in the mirror and not seeing what I used to see and what I want to see. And that was, so I do agree that you need to like yourself, but at the same time, there's science. Ask your doctor, are you in the good range? And if you don't feel that good and you're not in the good range, of course you should not hate yourself, but do something about it to take care of your health. If you want to live healthy, if you want to be a good partner, a good mother, a good grandmother, um, you don't want to put that into your life. Like, everything that we're doing today is going to impact our later years.
It's so interesting. So, a lot of people would assume that, okay, going to chef school and learning to cook delicious food would be a time when a lot of people would gain weight because they're experimenting with all these different recipes and tasting all these delicious foods. So, how did you manage to lose weight when you were doing
I
all of
lost
that?
weight after. So
Okay.
basically, yeah, when I went into it, I already wanted to lose weight. Even in the vegan school, just it wasn't the healthiest, I will tell you, because there were a lot of things for good texture, for the good taste, but there were still a lot of sugars, like a lot, like added sugars. Maybe it's maple syrup, but so much, then a lot of nuts every single dish. So I even thought, and we were making like 5 dishes a day every single day, and then like exam at the end of each week. So I
Wow.
thought, I'm not gonna eat food. And then my teacher trainer, she told me, like, you're gonna look like, it's just a few months. Your whole entire career is gonna be impacted. You need to learn flavors and combinations, and just
So,
doing them.
don't worry about the weight for now.
So that's what I
Yeah.
did. And I
Uh-huh.
knew that I want to do it in the healthy way. I knew that you can do it in the way where it could be healthy. A lot of things I already knew, like the amount
Mhm.
of fat we put into the dishes was not needed to make it just taste as good. So after I finished, I started experimenting and making it much healthier than we did there. And eventually it went down. But,
Interesting. And
but the
so where did you learn about health and nutrition? Was that kind of a separate education for you apart from your
Separate. I
culinary
mean, my
education?
entire life is education. However, I think it's very important not just to Google things and read the articles. Some of them are great, some of them are not. So my first official good certification that I got from Cornell University, called medicinal plants. We learn a lot of medicinal plants and their properties, things that have been proven, things that are not. But the most important thing in that education that I got was, they taught me how to read studies, and taught me how to actually find the valuable information, which are
Mm,
trusted sources and which are not. How you can look into studies, like what to look for, like what is mechanism of action of certain compound. So those things were essential, I think, in my nutrient education. I finished multiple courses from Harvard University, health and wellness, creating sustainable nutrition plan, chef course. also from Harvard, Basics and Beyond the Basics, uh, lifestyle, medicine, education for health professionals as well. So I know that my background now, based not just on things that are trending on the internet or on social media or even on health experts, but mostly on the studies. And that's how I structured now my online program, because I didn't want to be biased and just telling from my experience, I tried this.
Mhm.
It is based on like a lot of things that I went through. I implemented in the method, but mostly for the flavor, saving time, how to make it sustainable, to into your how to implement it sustainably into your day-to-day life as a busy professional. But when it comes to evidence and science, I rely on doctors, on studies that have been done for 10, 20 years on a big audience. So this way, we can go and get like something that is actually based on like, okay, even the example of Blue Zone, like there are so many things that you can say about people who like need to eat meat to live very long, but like so far all the people who live the longest, they don't call themselves vegan, but up to 96% of what they eat is whole food plant-based. They don't even think about it, they don't know that they're vegans, but they are. So
Right, right.
yeah, and they could be vegan just because like the potatoes is very like easy for them to grow, sweet potatoes, like in somewhere in Japan. So things like that is something that come to the core of the method, not just my own opinion and only my experience, because
Mhm.
that then I would go on the same page where the carnivores are. Like they come from not from the science, not even from their blood test, but from I feel better today. Like that's not enough evidence to influence hundreds and thousands of people.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, because in some ways people do sort of give that sort of experience the most weight, like, oh, I did this and I feel this way and therefore that proves something, when you're absolutely right. Well documented and well structured research studies are a lot more probative than a person's individual anecdotal experience, because oftentimes we'll attribute certain results to the wrong things, the wrong factors, and we'll
Absolutely.
think,
It
oh,
could be something else why you lost weight or why you feel better.
right. Right, right. It
There's
might have something to do with, yeah, cutting out all the processed foods. And that's why you're feeling better, not because you're suddenly eating all this red beef. But tell me this, you mentioned at us earlier in the conversation, you mentioned the social component of being a vegetarian and a vegan. So how did becoming a vegan affect your social life and your relationships?
well, it kind of like it became very hard at the beginning, specifically. Like when I remember when it was in Miami, a lot of restaurants at that time, like 10 years ago, they wouldn't have no oat milk, no almond milk. They will make fun of you. They wouldn't like. When I moved to LA, I felt home. I felt like this place is for me because people already knew they were more forward with it. However, just being social and having your friends for years in modeling and other things, you come to events and you are the only weird one, and you're never. Or people say, okay, there will be vegan food, and they will just have like three carrots and the lettuce. So like it was a challenge. Like when it comes to dating, for example, like
Yeah.
it will be complete turn off someone who is completely against it. So, and again, like generally, my approach in health, wellness, and people I work with and people I influence and help to go through transition, I work with beginners. A lot of them are pescatarians. A lot of them wanted to try it or tried it once and didn't do it in a healthy way and just quit, and they need that support, and there should be zero judgment from my side because I was eating meat once. So whatever
Right.
years, it takes someone to transition or try or learn and get information. Sometimes it's just planting a seed. Sometimes they come back 2 years later, or sometimes they just do their own transition because you said something meaningful that makes sense, that they did research and get confirmation they needed, and then they do their own steps. So I'm never judgmental of the people not knowing and not having access of
Mm.
information, but I can't be converting someone who is completely against it, making fun of it, like it's just not my place to be, not my. And there are people who are doing a great job of confronting, conflicting. It's just not my nature, not what I'm here for.
Sure. And, maybe just not where you choose to spend your energy, when there are a lot of people who are eager for this information. So
Yeah,
why waste our breath on the people who don't want to hear it right now or who aren't ready to hear it? So
right.
tell me this, when it came to starting your business, was it that first client that made you think like, oh, maybe this can be my profession, maybe this can be my business?
So it depends on where. I had a catering company for years, which was that first client that inspired
Okay.
me to
And
do that.
what were you cooking for them? Was it special events or was it
Both.
there are three meals a day?
Originally, I was doing the meal prep for athletes. So I would come twice a week and make food for next 3 days. And then, they have a setup of healthy food and
Wow. And where did you do all your food prep?
in
Did
their
you
house.
just at the house? Wow,
Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of work.
it is a lot of work, but I love the extra results. It paid really well as well. But at the same time, what was conflicting in this business model for me, because if they're like, let's say, a player, rugby player, basketball player, they would be bought into a different team, into the different city.
Oh, right.
That moment, we lose all the benefits of my diet because they move to the next place. They can't
Yeah.
maintain that because I didn't teach them how to cook. I didn't teach them what is healthy. I was making sure that
Interesting.
they get the most
Yeah.
nutrition. They have 30 plus plants. They have everything for their microbiome to thrive. So at the
Ah,
same time, even at that very moment, I had few clients who reached out who were not in LA and they asked me to coach them. And we had once a week sessions where I coach them on their, like, we go through their goals, but then I coach them on what they should eat. We create the menu, we create the recipes, we create step by step, and then we had daily check-ins of what they had for breakfast, lunch, dinner. They will just write it down.
that's fascinating. Tell me this, how did you come up with your model for doing this coaching? How did you come up with like your curriculum and what you
I just
thought
thought
they
of
needed to?
what would be the best help for me when I couldn't go through it myself.
Uh-huh.
I was
Uh-huh.
just going through my own experience. That's
Yeah, just replicating what you did for them, teaching them to do it.
what I was missing. Actually, I didn't. No one did it for me like 3 times a week to check in. But if someone would do it, I wish I had that person. So I created
Yeah.
the person I wish to have. I became that person.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. And
After
how did go
Yeah.
ahead.
After we saw and tested that model, we decided to come up with online product that everyone, without me calling with them, can go through all the theoretical lessons on their own pace. That's my online course right now, online program. We have Dan Buettner from Blazans teaching longevity lesson. We have Darren Olin teaching about food processing. We have Dr. Emmer Meyer, pioneer of microbiome, teaching about microbiome and its needs. We have Doug Evans teaching about sprouting and teaching about how you can live in the places with the food insecurities and food deserts.
Mm.
What can you do in those areas? Because 30 plus plants is great if you have whole foods around the corner, but what if not? And so things like that, where we teach fundamentals of nutrition, basics, and then next day, I teach you how, based on everything we just learned, how to create the perfect menu, how you can make it within 2 hours and eat that food through entire week.
Wow. So I have so many questions again. First of all, when did you shift from being like a one woman operation to being, having multiple employees and a whole staff of people?
Well, I plus on top of it, I have a business partner who is my co-founder. She have experience in business and tech. She launched a lot of products,
Perfect. Yeah.
successful products. So she's a technical and business part, and I'm more of a creative and scientific
Is
evidence.
she a vegan as well?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And she was vegan before even we met, so that was
Oh,
again.
lovely. Yeah.
She's from the same country as I am, so
Wow. So you really have a shared vision, it sounds like, and you're
yeah.
bringing different
And
different
and she
talents
was
and
my
expertise.
client. I helped her. I
Oh,
helped her
nice.
heal her gut issues that she had since she
Wow.
was born. So yeah, she was my kind of perfect
Yeah,
testimonial.
your avatar in some ways. Yeah, and tell me this, when you started your business, did you have in mind your clientele? Like, who did you think you were going to be reaching? Did you think it would be mostly athletes who wanted to improve their performance, or did you think it would be women who were trying to just lose those extra 20 or 30 pounds? Like, who did you have in mind?
When I became a private chef, my clientele became the athletes of people because that service is very expensive and it's a lot of time investing from me too. So you need to make money out of investing this money. So it would be athletes,
Uh-huh.
celebrities, some people who actually make more money because they eat good. So that would be that would be their investment. When it comes to a more affordable product, because I wanted to bring this Hollywood lifestyle to people who can't afford private chef, but they can get
Yeah.
twice as good, just the same food, and learn how to make it themselves and do it till the rest of their day. So that was, I knew where the pain point was for me. That's women, busy professionals who work from home, who don't have time to cook every day, but they want to eat healthy food. So meal prep on Sunday that will give you lasting nutritional balanced food. Everything will be calculated. Their proteins, microbiome content, like all of that will be calculated for you. So it's a busy professionals who work from home. It's a plant-based
Hmm.
beginners, people who want to complement, incorporate more plants into their diet. Maybe some of them are not vegans yet, but they were diagnosed with some diseases and they are doing the transaction like, where do you start? If you were eating burgers and pizzas, like just removing that and just living maybe fish a few times a week for them would be a big step already. I can't expect
Yeah.
that next day. So but we're helping to for them to try plants and plant food diet and show how tasty and healthy it could be. The main component is deliciousness of the food. Otherwise, you're not gonna stick to it. So that's where we come. Um, busy professionals who work from home,
Yeah.
plant-based eaters, people who want to lose weight, people who were recently diagnosed with certain diseases, and
Hmm.
people who call themselves biohackers, people who want to live longer, who want to look
Hmm.
younger, who want to stay as healthy as they could, who want to perform both physically and brain performance as they were in their 20s, who want to be productive. So a lot of that are people who are still working and very busy working and don't want to waste a lot of time, want to have a system that is completely built something for them that will benefit their health, performance, and slower their aging.
Yeah. So what are some of the top tips that you have for people who maybe, don't have the capacity right now to purchase your services, but what are some tips that you can offer people who are listening just for expediting their food prep and upping the nutrient content and the deliciousness? Everything.
Experiment, experiment, experiment. Come up, try every single week, try to implement more plants into a diet, experiment with the different flavors. Don't give up. Like,
What are your favorite flavors or your favorite combinations?
well, oh, it's so many. It's very hard question because I really love food and like my favorite dish. People always ask me that. I always answer the one I haven't made yet because every week I make new dishes, so I can't
Yeah.
really come up and stick to something too very long. What I can tell you once I start working on a dish, it takes me quite a few weeks to finish it. So I nail it and nail it and nail it. So if I start making, let's say you found a soup recipe on the internet or one of the recipes on my page. So make this recipe and see what could be done better. Like, what is this maybe missing? What if I change this for like a carrot? What if I add this? What if I delete it? And then you can do a lot of integrations until you come up with something that is completely new and it's your dish now.
So
So
start with a recipe, but make it your own.
yeah, but at this very moment, just come. There's a lot of recipes on my Instagram. Check out Natalie Golba Instagram page and try one of the recipes. I give them away for free and would be happy if you can try.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll certainly include all that information in the show notes. And how do you eat? How has your you don't like the word diet, which I
Yeah.
understand, but how has the way that you eat evolved over the years?
I eat exactly from my program. I am my own fan. I'm my own customer. I cook
Perfect. Yes,
everything.
you're genuine.
Even when I go travel, I take the jars with the soup, etc., with me just because it makes my life so much easier, so much tastier. I love to try new things, but not so much anymore because I really love my food. So I miss my
Yeah.
food, my microbiome. I
Yeah.
feel so light. I feel so energetic. So every Sunday, I create the menu from my program. Then throughout the week, I make sometimes twice as much because I have guests and I want people to try, and some people for business, some clients. So I make a little more than I should. And I like to feed people. I like to see people being happy trying my food and people who are not vegan but who are open to it just to outshine. I say like one dish could change someone's life because it could inspire them to make a change, to show them that it's simple, it's easy, it's doable, it's
Mhm.
actionable. And just imagining that every day could be like that, it's something I want to focus on.
Right, right. That makes so much sense. What are some of your favorite ingredients to cook with? Right now, because I'm sure again that changes a lot, but right now.
Again, if we're speaking about microbiome aspect, you need to eat 30 plus plants per week. I love mushrooms. I love a lot of things for mushrooms. So, for example, this week I made porcini mushroom soup with the mushrooms I brought from a granny
Huh?
when I was visiting my family in December. So it's dry porcini mushrooms that brought in abundance and that make this soup very special, even related to the family. There are a lot of
Aw.
beans, legumes in there. I have sprouted mung beans. I have sprouted quinoa in that soup. Um, Carrots. I love coconut cream for to add for a little creaminess. A little squeeze of lemon. So the combination of, if you
Mm.
think of combination of flavors as you mentioned, ask that. I love to combine all the flavors. Like there should be one leading flavor. So in the soup, it should be a little more salty than it is sweet. But red bell pepper will bring some sweetness, lemon a little acidity. Um, Garlic a little pungent flavor. So once you combine a lot, all the palates are activated,
Mm.
even if it's a little bit of it. So with one leading, it gives this effect to your brain that you just don't understand what's going on.
You're just flooded with pleasure. Yes.
That is a pleasure. But try to think always when you come up with a recipe, like try to always think, like even when I make almond milk, I put a tiny pinch of salt. You wouldn't feel
Mm.
salty flavor, but the
Mhm.
salt will open up other flavors and they become much more intensified and brighter and
Mhm.
like you wouldn't even recognize it's there, but it somehow will taste better than that. So I try to combine everything without over salting and doing things like that, but you still bring up so much life into these dishes.
Yeah. And so how much time do you spend cooking per week? Because this sounds like a lot of work, a lot of time in the kitchen.
It is about 2.5 hours every Sunday. The rest is
Okay.
pulling up the dishes from the from
Okay, that's very manageable.
It
Yeah.
is very manageable. Well, in
Yeah.
fact, I calculated, I'm going to do a post about it, but I calculated just as an example, when you think you're going to save time going to the restaurant, just even if it's close to you, even if you're doing the takeout and you're ordering something from Uber Eats, just finding the restaurant, then scrolling from that restaurant, finding the right recipe, and then like ordering it, waiting for the driver to come, looking at your phone. This is so destructive. Like not
Right.
taking into consideration that you don't know for sure those products was not organic. You don't know
Yep.
how much salt and fat they put, how fresh were the ingredients, even they're not organic, how much plastic you added to the ecosystem, plus
Yep.
gas emission, etc. But time-wise, just if you're a businessman and professional, it takes so much time every single day. If you just invested these 2 hours on
Hmm.
Sunday, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like sometimes when I travel for work and I don't have that Sunday cooking, my week
Hmm.
is not the same. I
Hmm.
still like I'm a
Hmm.
human. Few weeks a year, I don't
Hmm.
do it because of certain reasons, but the whole week is going not even close to what it is. Like I miss and just wait till next Sunday so I can have my
Right.
normal schedule. It's not a big investment to the results I got, to the life I
Yeah.
got, to
Yeah.
even if I have a
That
meal.
makes
I now
right.
schedule it at my place where I can feed people with delicious food. I will have my own great meal, but also I
Hmm.
bond with people so much closer and deeper because there was something
Right.
there and sharing a meal together, sharing this experience.
Yes.
When you made it, put this energy, your love for people who are going to eat it. What could be better?
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful the way you put it. And that makes so much sense. People always talk about, oh, how being vegan and eating healthy takes so much time and so much preparation. And people sometimes don't realize that. Like you said, even when you're eating out, that takes time. And even if you're not eating healthy, you still have to figure out what you're going to eat for your meals. You're still planning in some capacity.
No,
So
but you're
it just
planning
makes,
much more. You have to think about it every
yeah,
day. If I have
yeah.
to think about it once a week when I create the menu, just thinking what I want to eat this week, and then when I make the food, till the rest of the week, the whole
You're
things is
free.
already done. I
Yeah,
don't have to think about it. I know, and this,
right.
this feeling that you don't have to worry about it, like
Mm,
it's out of your picture. You can focus more on business, on relationship, and other aspects of your
right,
life, whatever you
right,
go through, because that is covered.
right. And you don't have to make these decisions in the heat of the moment when you're stressed, when you're worried, when you're,
Late,
frazzled about
yeah,
life.
when you're late.
Yes, because you're not going to make good decisions in those moments. So
And the
yeah, that
waiter
makes
might
so
forgot one of the dishes or brought it wrong or it wasn't vegan this time.
right,
Whatever it is,
right,
there's so many things underneath that you're just removing from your life. I can still go eat out. Maybe once every 2 weeks I go
right, right,
check it
right.
out, but it's more fun. It's not to eat. I still have great food at home. It's just like more for entertaining and getting inspired to create my recipe.
Right, right. You're not counting on it to nourish you, and you're not dependent on it. So you don't suffer if it doesn't bring you all of the benefits that you were hoping for.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's so fascinating hearing about your process and hearing about this amazing business of yours. I've just got just a couple more questions for you. But one thing I'd love to hear about, obviously, you're a planner and you're an executor and
Yeah.
you're a very type A personality who, kind of lays things out start to finish. So I'm curious, what have been some of the biggest surprises in this business that you started so long ago?
The most of surprises, I would say, it's people who are resistant to it, and you told them something, and you meet them like 2 years later, and you see that things that you said were impactful, and they changed their habits and they changed
Mm,
their life. Are a lot of people I worked with like 4 or 5 years ago, they still follow in the program I gave them like those years later. Like I meet some people later, not even knowing if they ever stick to it, but that's all they eat. And it's just
mm,
amazing. Like when you think about it, like how this education and program or whatever, in general, how education, when it's done right, what it does for
mhm,
you, affects you, your family, your kids, your kids' habits, their entire future life, their entire health for their whole life. Just one thing that you learn. My biggest dream is to teach nutrition at school. Like,
Mm.
I don't understand why don't we have that subject. I think it's so important. I think the science is so advanced, and just the fact that don't we learn math and we learn computer science and so many advanced things and chemistry and things like that, but we don't learn nutrition. And
Right.
everyone eats every single day, and you
Right.
have to figure out on your own when you're already much older, if you ever decide to figure it out. Some
Right.
people don't.
Right.
So this is such a big gap in the system of the whole entire world, not just the United States. So that's something
Yes.
to be big
Yes.
for.
Yes, yes. And unfortunately, it's not just a gap. It's even worse than that as I see it. It's that there are a lot of big businesses and big industries that profit off of us not knowing about nutrition and profit
Yeah.
off of our being sick and our being ignorant and dependent on pharmaceuticals and addicted to big foods. So, unfortunately, it's not just that there's a lack of education, there are perverse incentives that make it unprofitable for the public at large to have access to this information. So unfortunately, I think we've got a bigger systemic issue than just
But
lack of nutrition and education. But the good news is like you're doing with your business is that we can start empowering ourselves. We don't have to wait for industry to change. We can start right now on an individual basis. And once we get some basic education and some foundational information in place, we're so empowered. And that's something that I personally am so grateful for. I was saying that to a friend just the other day, how I feel so empowered and such ownership over my own health. And it's something that everyone can have, but very few people do. So I'm just so grateful, as I can tell you are, to have found this path and have learned about it for yourself. Has your family adopted this way of eating, like your parents? And I don't know if you have brothers and sisters, but have
yeah,
they?
I know I'm the only child. My mother did. I remember how she was at the beginning uh, against it as a doctor, then
Oh.
accepting just because she didn't want to argue with me. I remember at first she would just buy everything she used to buy, and I was like, "Mom, you remember what I eat?" And I remember once she told me when I was coming back again, like, "Mom, you remember what I eat?" She's like, "Yeah, I remember grass." And and now over the years since that happened, it's been like I was feeding her studies, I was feeding her all their medical evidence because she's a doctor and she needs facts, not just how I felt and how I lost weight. So now she doesn't eat red meat. She probably eats fish maybe once a week, once every other week. She most likely became like a Centurionian from Luzon.
Mhm.
Like she is
Mhm.
96% plant based, not 100. I don't
Uh-huh.
get anything from her. I just give her her own pace, and I'm allowing her to take her own steps. I think uh, once she moved closer to me, like from Russia, she would go 100%. I can't force her, knowing how hard it is there to do anything differently. But it's very inspiring. I would never think if someone would tell me 10 years ago that my mom would become plant based, I would just not believe that.
I feel the same way about my father, and he's not plant-based currently, but he is much closer than I would ever have imagined.
Yeah.
I remember just maybe 5 years ago, my mom had cooked for me this delicious butternut squash chili, and I was eating it and he was sitting there watching me. And I said, "Dad, this is so good. Would you like to try some?" And he got this look of just disgust on his face. And my mother said, "Oh, your father doesn't eat vegan food." And this is of course a man who's eaten oatmeal for breakfast for 30 years. So he's eaten vegan food. But now, 5 or 10 years later, I have literally heard him describe himself, okay, half jokingly, but with some element of sincerity, that he's an aspiring vegan, and
Mm,
how he thinks it can't be disputed that it's the healthiest way to eat.
yeah.
And, and some of the things coming out of his mouth, I think I would never have imagined this man saying those things. So I can relate to that a lot. And congratulations on just planting those seeds. And like you've alluded to, sometimes though, even when in the moment these pieces of information don't seem to get through to people, we never know. They may be planting seeds, and they may be affecting their trajectory for the future in ways that we can't predict. So all we can do is just be those examples and just do our best to, put the information out there in a way that makes it accessible and appealing, and just be the best role models we can. So thank you for doing that in the world, and making
Thank
the
you,
difference in that
Tracy.
way. Yeah, and I hope to try some of your food in person someday.
Please.
It sounds absolutely enchanting.
Let
Yes.
me know when you're in town.
Yes, yes. And likewise, you'll have to come visit Nashville at some point. I think you said you'd never been here, so
I've never
you'll have.
been, and it will be my
Yeah, there's
pleasure.
a pretty good vegan scene here. There's
Yeah.
several fabulous restaurants. There's a monthly potluck
Mm,
at a really cool, like, ecological shop in Franklin, Tennessee. There's a cool vegan scene here. Um,
wonderful. I'll
so
visit.
Natalie, what's the best place for people to check out your business and to follow you in the virtual world?
So I have Instagram page that is just my name, Natalie Golba. So my website is healthiestchef.com, where we help you become your healthiest chef. It's not about me; it's about people who take the
Yes.
program.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. I also have Facebook fan page, but I pretty much post there the same things that I post on Instagram. So Instagram is the best source for now.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, we'll include all that information in the show notes. And then, final question for you that I like to ask all my guests. Is there a particular word that for you sums up what being vegan is all about?
Compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you like to say a little more about that?
Uh, yeah, well, even if you go right now with a year and century of AI, I don't know, era of AI, if you go and ask AI who can go through all the studies and all the available information now till nowadays, will do better than I would do or you would do because we have limitations of how much information we can process. If you ask what would be the most beneficial way to eat for the health of the planet and me, uh, ChatGPT or any other AI will tell you that it is plant-based diet. And besides compassion to animals, which is very important, and besides compassion to, we have to have a compassion to our planet. We have to have a compassion to our kids, grandkids, and the future generations. And things that we do today are very impactful. One of my favorite books in the world is The Little Prince from Exupery. And what Little Prince did was, because he couldn't change the world, but what he did, living in his little planet, he would wake up every day and clean his planet. So the things that I can do is things that I can take care of everything that I'm responsible for. Every step that I'm taking responsibility for it and I'm doing it. So compassion should come from even to those who live differently and don't understand it yet, who just have
Hmm.
to have that compassion and patience. If we really want to change, their anger is not an answer. And I see that a lot in vegan community, the aggressiveness towards people who live differently. So compassion should be everywhere. That's the thing that moves. That's the thing that inspires. That's the things that make people curious. Aggressiveness didn't change anyone overnight because you scream at someone that they will stop doing what they're doing, but show what truly this movement is about in our hearts. And of course, compassion to living creatures all around the world, humans, animals, birds, everything, everything.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's very well said. And what I love the most about that concept is how you started this whole journey out of compassion for non human animals, only to discover that it also benefited you,
Yeah,
perhaps even more than
yeah,
anybody else. So that's the wonderful irony of all of this, is that by acting out of generosity and kindness and compassion, we end up benefiting. So it's a beautiful principle of life and of love, as a principle of physics is how I see it. So thank
yeah.
you for embodying that and for sharing it with the world and for sharing it with our audience and with me today.
It was a pleasure talking to you, Chrissy. Thank you for your beautiful questions. I made me think of a lot of things, so I want to thank you for that.
All right. Well, the pleasure has been mine as well. And we close every episode by taking 30 seconds of silence for all of the suffering animals, human and non-human, who desire, as we all do, safety, happiness, and the freedom to live out their lives without interference. So, Natalie, I invite you to join me in 30 seconds of silence for the animals, and we'll conclude with the sound of the bell. Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Posse. See you next time. Until then, stay strong and stay true.